the Positive Bread Podcast. I'm Heather McConaughey, registered nurse turned nutrition and mindset coach, podcast host, and inspirational speaker. I have a passion for empowering millennial women because, well, I'm the oldest of the millennials. Think of me like your big millennial sister, here to help you avoid all the mistakes that I made along the way and inspire you to dream big and achieve your goals. Every week, I'll bring you an interview, topic, or Q&A session that will inspire you to transform your body, mind, and soul so you can achieve your dreams and make a positive impact in the world. We believe that when women prioritize self-care, everyone wins. If that sounds good to you, you're in the right place. Are you ready? Let's start the show. Welcome to this week's episode. How are you? I recently asked on Instagram, what are the things that you're most challenged by with COVID life and pandemic life? And the reason I keep talking about this is because I don't think that we can ignore it. I don't think we can pretend that it's not there. I think we need to dialogue about it and make sure that we're discussing it because it is impacting people so much. Some of the things that I heard from you that are impacting you include work uncertainty, not having breaks from your children, trying to plan a wedding, work on your education, and have a part-time job, not giving up on yourself, people, or the world, travel issues, not seeing your friends, not being able to travel to see them or have local gatherings, not seeing grandparents and loved ones, moving to a new place, but having to isolate. So it being really hard to build new relationships, not being able to get together or do stuff with friends, having to wear a mask all day at work, not seeing family, the anxiety it's caused and how it's affecting your life, and not being able to work out as much and starting to put on weight. So what I wanted to do today is actually walk through these challenges and give you some actionable tips that you can take to work through all of these things. You probably hear yourself in these other women's struggles, and that's something that I really want you to take away from today's episode is you are not alone and you are not the only one struggling. One of the things that I have started to find really helpful in this practice of self-compassion is recognizing that the struggle that I feel is actually very human. And it's actually a struggle that a lot of other people feel as well. And when we can start to identify our struggles in the greater struggle of humanity, we can start to have greater compassion for ourselves. We can start to let go of some of that self-judgment that is so prevalent in our society. It's so easy to just judge ourselves, right? There's some themes that I really hear amongst the challenges that you all are dealing with. So let's go through and break down some of these themes. Number 1, uncertainty. Number 2, overwhelm. Number 3, hopelessness. 4, isolation. 5, loneliness. 6, anxiety. 7, health issues. That's a lot for anybody to deal with. So if you're just wishing you could tap out of this year and out of pandemic life and out of this just whole world that we're now living in, you're not alone, and it's totally normal to just be completely done with everything. Uncertainty is a really challenging thing because we live under the illusion that things are more certain than they are. And I think the pandemic has lifted the veil, so to speak, of that uncertainty. The things that we perceive as certain are actually not certain. They've never been certain. It just felt like they were more certain. And so now we have true uncertainty. We have blatant staring us in the face uncertainty layered on top of the uncertainty that has always been there in life. One of the things that I encourage you to do is start to embrace uncertainty. Embrace the fact that things never were certain. Your health isn't certain. You could get in a car accident the next day. Your loved ones could die. You could get fired from a job. Your workplace could burn down. Your house could burn down. I mean, so many things can happen to us in life. We actually have very little control. And that illusion of control leads to a lot of suffering in our lives. So I invite you to start to play around with that, like things have always been uncertain. Now you're just more aware of it. But that uncertainty can breed a lot of anxiety because as human beings, we crave things that are stable. We crave things that are consistent. Uncertainty makes us feel safe. Let's talk about overwhelm. So raise your hand if you feel at all overwhelmed by 2020. I know I do. The plans I had for this year haven't gone the way that I wanted. My vision has crumbled. I've had to reinvent myself, reinvent my life, and it's really challenging. And there's a lot of overwhelm from paying bills, running a business, balancing a budget, making friends, taking care of my health, taking care of clients, like doing all the things personally for me. So I don't even have kids. I mean, bless you mothers who have children out there and families who are trying to raise your kids, homeschool them, and also get your own stuff done. No wonder we're overwhelmed. And everyone's overwhelm looks different. So try not to compare yourself. Like I kind of just did it. Like, oh, you moms have it so rough. And like, I don't have kids, so I shouldn't have it as rough. But like, I have my own things that overwhelm me. The resources you have are not sufficient to meet the challenges before you. Leads to an experience of overwhelm. So one of the things that can help overwhelm is adding in more resources, which we'll talk about, and also seeing if you can mitigate some of the challenges before you and actually lessen the effect that those have. Hopelessness is another thing that I hear, right? Like not giving up on yourself, not giving up on people in the world. Like it's really easy right now to feel really cynical. It's really easy to feel resigned about the state of things. Our political situation is really rocky right now. Things are uncertain. Things are confusing. Things are frustrating. We have an election coming up in just a few weeks in the United States. And there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of feeling that you don't have control over things. And, we have a lot of challenges facing our world. So it's really easy to fall into hopelessness. And if you've fallen into hopelessness, you're not alone. You're human. So that's the good news. We know you're not a lady robot. And hopelessness doesn't actually help anything. So once we recognize we're in hopelessness and we have compassion for ourselves, we want to see if we can take some active steps to mitigate or alleviate that hopelessness. Action chases away despair. I absolutely love that phrase because I've used that time and time again in my life. When you're in despair about things, like you don't want to take action. But the thing that will chase away the despair is taking some type of action. And one action is always better than zero. Getting up and going for a walk is better than not exercising at all. Getting yourself up and going to the gym class, twice a week is better than zero. Like some type of action is always better. Maybe you feel hopeless about climate change. Well, buying used clothes for a month is better than not doing anything, or leaving your car home 2 days a week is better than driving it every single day. Taking a walk to run errands, things like that. Like we tend to downplay the effect of small actions, but small actions add up to big results. And I always teach my clients that like small things done consistently add up to big results. So you're not going to achieve a big goal by doing one big action. You're going to achieve a goal by doing thousands upon thousands of small actions over and over again. We see this in weight loss and getting fit and healthy. You're not going to get fit and healthy from one meal that you ate one night. I sat down and planned my meals for the week. I went grocery shopping. I came home and put the food away. I chopped veggies for the week. Then I sat down and decided when I was going to work out. Then I went to bed 30 minutes earlier so I had energy to wake up in the morning to go work out. Then I got up and got dressed and drove to the gym that day, and I drove to the gym the next day, and then I went for a walk this day. It's like thousands upon thousands of small actions done consistently over time add up to results in life. And it's the same thing if we want to create change in the world. So if you're feeling hopeless, my solution for you is take action. Even if it's a small action, even if it feels insignificant, tiny, just take some kind of action because action really will chase away the despair. Travel issues. Oh man, I really feel this because that's part of the reason I left Kauai was the quarantine and feeling stuck there, people not being able to visit me, feeling restricted, feeling very trapped on the island. And while paradise is amazing in many ways, after a while, paradise can become a prison for some of us, which is how it started to feel for me with the travel issues. So it's very common to be frustrated with travel right now, not being able to travel as you normally would. I will say this because I've actually traveled about 4 times during the pandemic, both in Hawaii and then to the mainland. And I also had to fly to Seattle to get my car. That travel definitely feels like less dirty than it did a year ago. So there's fewer people traveling. Everyone's masked. Everyone's super cognizant of sanitizing things. The airlines are doing like a great job at keeping things clean. And yes, travel is a higher risk activity when it comes to exposing yourself to infection because you're around all these people from all different areas. It definitely doesn't provoke as much anxiety in me as I thought it would. So if you're really wanting to travel, if you really need to go see friends, then do it. I'm planning on going to LA to see one of my good friends for Thanksgiving week. And, I'm going to have to quarantine away from my elderly parents when I come back for a period of time. But that's important to me that I have a chance to go see a friend. So try not to let travel issues completely stop you from traveling. If it's something you really want to do, just think through the pros and cons, think through the consequences, think through how you need to protect yourself and other people around you as best as possible. Loneliness and isolation. Oh man, I really feel this one. I felt it really hard on Kauai when the pandemic first hit. Like the month of April, I was super lonely. I was living alone. I wasn't seeing any other humans. All my activities were canceled. We couldn't even go to the beach and lay out in Kauai. It was just like a really weird time. There weren't religious services to attend. There weren't support groups. The island just was shut down. And so it was a really weird, isolating, lonely time for me. And it's gotten a lot better because now I am living with my family and I'm making friends in Oregon. I'm reconnecting with old friends. I'm trying to socialize as safe as I can. We always have to weigh the pros and cons of things and the risk benefit. And for me, having social time is really important to my mental and physical health. So I make sure that I am scheduling in social time and I'm doing it as responsibly and safely as I can. I'm spending time with other people who are practicing healthy, socially distant type things. Or if they're not, then I plan to quarantine away from other vulnerable people because I don't want to obviously give COVID to my elderly parents or anybody. But I think we just have to keep weighing the risk and benefits of things because, this is probably going to last until we get a vaccine. It's probably going to last through next year. And so you have to think about your life and your mental health too and balance that out. There's so many FaceTimes and Zooms that we can do before we're kind of just feeling burnt out. But I will say that I try to call a friend every single day or talk to a new friend or a Tinder date or somebody. I try to have a conversation with another human every single day. And I probably achieve it now 90% of the time. And getting on the phone and talking to new people does so much to alleviate loneliness. And if you can FaceTime or Zoom, that's great too. So I would recommend trying to talk to people as much as possible. Pick a new person to talk to every day. You can rotate through your friends. Because if you're feeling lonely and isolated, chances are your friends are also feeling lonely and isolated. And it makes a difference to reach out to them. Some of your friends may not answer the phone or kind of be antisocial. And look, you can't control that. You can't control that people want to talk to you. You can also use an app like Marco Polo, which is a video app where you can send video messages to the people that you love. You can also use it if you have clients or things like that. But I really like Marco Polo because it's short little video messages that help you connect to other people. Not seeing grandparents. Yeah, not seeing the elderly people in our lives. This is hard. That's part of the reason I moved to Oregon to spend some time with my parents because, one of the things that the pandemic brought home for me is my parents have limited time. And if God forbid they did get it and then I couldn't come see them because they were in isolation and they died that way, that would be horrible to not have had any time with them. So it's been really great to have spent the last 2 months being able to be close to my parents and my family and know that no matter what happens, like down the road, like we had this time together. So there comes a time in life when you just have to reassess your priorities. I've been so work focused for so many years on my nursing career and then starting and building my business. I was just work all the time. Like I'm a total workaholic. And I've had to really slow down recently. And it's not easy, I'll tell you that. Like my business is slower right now. I'm in a season of just a slower pace and I'm okay with that. But it's taken some adjusting. So I would encourage you to think about, what are your priorities? Do you need to reprioritize some things in your life so that you can see the people in your life? Do you need to form a bubble with some of your loved ones that are older so that you can connect? Do you need to FaceTime them more? Do you need to write letters? Like, how can you be more connected to your grandparents? Forget that for many millennia, people didn't have phones. They didn't have FaceTime. They didn't have video. They wrote letters and they would write a letter and then it would take weeks to get there. So then it would take more weeks for the person to write back. So you could go 2 months between like a complete communication cycle. And now we're so used to like instant communication, being able to see people that I think we forget that there's many ways to communicate and feel connected. So sending cards, sending FaceTime, sending little presents, doing letter writing, having a Zoom party, having Zoom dinner with your grandparents, FaceTiming them more often. A lot of elderly people really suffer from loneliness and isolation. So you can actually be the solution to your grandparents' potential loneliness by you reaching out. This next one really hits home for me, which is moving to a new state, but having to isolate. So it's really hard to build relationships. And I just went through that myself. So I just moved to Oregon. And while I do have some existing connections here, I'm moving here as an adult. I'm moving here as a different person with different interests. So I'm trying to reach out and connect with new people that I vibe with. And it is hard. It's hard to balance, okay, like, am I being safe? Do I take my mask off? Do I leave my mask on? Should we go outside? Like, how are we going to do this? And try to build relationships. One of the things that I've been doing is really starting with the phone. So getting on the phone and having a conversation, you could just be like a regular phone call. It could be a FaceTime. It could be a Zoom. But anything where you're able to talk to the person first before meeting in person, I think is a great way to gauge that person's, responsibility in the pandemic. Like, is this a person who is being responsible for wearing a mask and keeping their distance from people? Or is this a person who is just kind of doing whatever? I had a phone chat with a Tinder date. And very quickly, I realized that we were not aligned because he basically didn't believe in wearing a mask. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to really work out between us. And, then I've met some people who are like, hey, whatever you want to do, I'm comfortable with. Like, if you want to wear masks and go for a walk outside, like whatever you need to do to feel comfortable, I'm fine with. That's a person who's respecting me and respecting my boundaries in a way where I feel good spending time with them. So I recommend sussing people out over the phone. If you're trying to meet new people, it does help to get outside. Winter is coming, but if you live in a climate where you can get outside more, or even just bundle up if it's cold and hey, wearing a mask in the winter is probably going to feel cozy. It's going to keep our faces warmer. So that's a pro. So you can get outside and do things because it really does make a difference to be outside and socializing. That helps decrease transmission of the disease versus being in closed spaces like a car or being, right up against somebody. But it is challenging, and you again have to weigh the risk-benefit analysis for you and your life and the people that you're around, and if you want to socialize or not. Not being able to get together and do stuff with friends, again, trying to find ways where you can socialize as much as possible is helpful. We've gone out to dinner with some family, and some of the people wore N95 masks after they ate because that's what they were more comfortable doing. Some people sat there without a mask. It's just, there's no simple way to do this because everyone has a different risk tolerance and everyone has a different life. But I think it's important to try to be responsible to as many people as we can. Having to wear a mask all day at work, yeah, so annoying. I have had to wear a mask when I go to Orange Theory fitness classes now. And at first, I felt like I was going to die, like trying to breathe through the mask when my heart rate was like at 95% of its max. I was like, and now, honestly, I've adapted to it. And I think one of the beautiful lessons of 2020 that I've learned for myself is truly how adaptable I am as a human being. The adaptation may suck at first. It may be really hard. It may be painful and uncomfortable, but ultimately humans are very adaptable. And so I think that that's a really valuable lesson for all of us to take away, is just to remember and see like, wow, I'm such an adaptable human being and I can learn to wear a mask all day at work. Also, play around with different types of masks. Like maybe you're wearing a mask that doesn't breathe properly or is just not comfortable. My mom and I have actually been like sewing masks and making some cute masks that we found just to, kind of add to our mask repertoire. It's like a fashion statement. It's an accessory now, okay? So try to play around with different masks. I, as a nurse, used to have to wear masks a lot at work, just whether we were in a trauma or protecting myself from a patient with tuberculosis, I would have to wear N95 masks. There were procedures where I wore masks for 3 hours straight, and it was hot and uncomfortable. But we learned to do hard things to take care of ourselves and the people that we love, and just know that it's a small sacrifice that you're making to ensure greater public health. One of the other challenges is just the anxiety that this has caused and how it's affecting your lives. So one of the things I like to do is when I'm feeling anxious, I like to make a list of 2 things. Things I can control and things I can't control. So I make like 2 columns, draw a line down a piece of paper, and I just write it out. Things I can control, things I can't control. And things I can control are like what I eat, how much I exercise, meditation, what time I go to bed, how I treat other people, how I spend my free time, the books I'm reading, the content I'm consuming, etc., etc. Things I can't control include the weather, Donald Trump, the pandemic, the state of the world, like things I just like can't control. Like I'm not in charge of those things. And then anything that's on the I can't control list, that goes in what I call my no worry box. All right. I have a no worry box. It's like a part of my brain. And if something is on the list of things I can't control, that goes in the no worry box. And this little trick has really made a difference with my anxiety, because anxiety typically stems from trying to control things that are beyond our control. And it's almost kind of like crazy to try to control things that you don't have control over. And again, that's another illusion. Certainty and control are illusions. You thinking you have control over life, you have control over things, you thinking that things are certain and they're going to stay that way, those are all illusions. And life is actually highly impermanent and constantly changing and constantly evolving. And nothing stays the same and nothing lasts. There's this constant reinvention and turnover in life. So once you start to accept that, anxiety tends to lessen because you start to just kind of like surrender to the roller coaster. Lastly, one of your big challenges is just being out of your health routine, starting to pack on weight. And girlfriend, I get it because I was there with you. I gained about 5 to 6 pounds during the springtime, the pandemic. It was a tough time for me emotionally. And so I was eating some sugar at times. And, sometimes even us coaches, we struggle. We're human. And I'd be remiss in pretending that I'm perfect and that I don't still have ups and downs. But one of the things that I'm strong at being a coach and being someone who teaches other people is I'm quick to recover. So I don't let things go on for, 12 months or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. I'm on top of it. I'm like, okay, things are changing. I need to take action. So there are many things that you can control right now regarding your health. You do have a say over the food that you eat. You have a say over if you drink alcohol. You have a say over if you go for a walk or you just watch Netflix for 3 hours. You have a say if you get up and do a HIIT workout. You can do a YouTube video. When the wildfires were happening in Oregon, the gym was closed. I couldn't go for a walk outside. The thing that I could do was I could do a YouTube HIIT video, cardio video in my living room. And I did. So keeping our eye on what can I control regarding my health and well-being is so, so valuable. Because when we surrender responsibility for our health and well-being and we become a victim, that's where we tend to really start to have a loss of power. So I encourage you to, pay attention to what you're eating, keep your body moving, drink your water, get your sleep in, all those things that are going to help you feel amazing. And if you're struggling, then reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram. I'm accepting 3 new clients in October, and I have some special goodies for those of you who join in October because I know it's just like a shit show of a time. So I wanted to reward you and give you some gifts just to make you feel better and help you out during this really challenging time. So if you're struggling to stay fit during quarantine, if things are getting worse for you during pandemic with your health, if you're packing on weight and you're like, oh my God, now I'm going to go into the holiday season and not feel good in my body. I'm going to have to wait till the new year. Girlfriend, no, you can start now. And actually starting a nutrition fitness program during the holidays is one of the best things you can do for yourself. I've seen this time and time again with my clients that it's actually really valuable for them to start a nutrition program during the holidays because not only do they not gain the holiday weight, but they have all this momentum going into the new year. So when everyone else is trying to start on January 1st with new health habits, my clients have already been doing it for months and they just keep that train going. So if you'd like to explore us working together and see if it's a good fit, then send me a message on Instagram at Heather McConaughey. So my Instagram is not the name of this podcast. It's my personal name at Heather McConaughey, MCCONOCHIE. I'll put the link down in the description box as well. Thanks for listening. As always, I hope this episode was valuable for you. Keep your chin up. We're going to get through this together. Things are going to improve, and I'm here with you every step of the way. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found this valuable, please take a screenshot of the episode, upload it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at Heather McConaughey with your takeaway. Also, if you love the podcast, please subscribe, rate the podcast, and leave a review. I read all the reviews, and they mean so much to me. New episodes drop every 2 weeks on Sunday, and I can't wait to get to know you better and share more life-affirming wellness, business, and mindset tips with you. Talk to you in 2 weeks.